Hello students. Today in this lecture we will learn about the pathway of glucose breakdown as well as the human respiratory system. Now in this slide you can see I have described a pathway of glucose breakdown. Glucose is a chemical molecule, right, that contains 6 carbon atom. What is a glucose? It's a chemical that contains 6 carbon molecule, right? Glucose is converted into pyruvate that is 3 carbon molecule. Now what is pyruvate? Pyruvate is also a chemical, right, that is having 3 carbon molecule. Clear? Now this conversion of glucose into pyruvate takes place in cytoplasm. Now this pyruvate will further break down to release either ethanol or carbon energy, or lactic acid and energy, or carbon dioxide, water and energy, right, on the basis of presence of oxygen, right? These 3 conversion takes place, that is in which pathway the pyruvate will undergo depends on presence of oxygen. Is it clear? Right? Now let's see one by one. That is, what if the oxygen is present in abundant, that is maximum, sufficient amount, that is then the pyruvate will undergo into third pathway, that is presence of oxygen, and this takes place, my dear student, in mitochondria, right? So pyruvate in presence of oxygen inside the mitochondria will convert into carbon dioxide plus water plus energy. Clear? Right? And this kind of reaction is known as aerobic respiration. Clear? Okay. Now next. That is, in absence of oxygen. So what that takes place inside the yeast cell, right? That will release ethanol plus carbon dioxide plus energy. What is an ethanol? Ethanol is 2 carbon molecule. What does that mean? It means it is a molecule. It is a molecule that contains 2 carbon atoms, right? This is first carbon atom and this one is second carbon atom. Clear? Third one, if the oxygen is present but it is in lesser amount, right? That is lack of oxygen. This takes place inside the muscles and that will lead to give lactic acid and energy. My dear students, the first 2 reactions are known as anaerobic, right? Especially the first one is known as anaerobic respiration. The second one, we can say that it comes in a lack of oxygen, right? All right. Energy is released in all, but amount of energy that is released in aerobic respiration is 36 molecule of ATP, whereas in these 2, in anaerobic respiration, only 2 molecule of ATP is generated. So there is a vast difference in energy generation also. In aerobic respiration, more amount of energy is generated. In anaerobic respiration, less amount of energy is generated, right? Aerobic respiration takes place in mitochondria. Anaerobic respiration, that is takes place in cytoplasm only, right? Okay, because yeast doesn't contain any mitochondria, that's why it doesn't perform any kind of aerobic respiration. Am I clear? All right, moving ahead. Dear students, this topic is quite important. It is important because many of the time in exams also it has been asked, you have to learn this entire pathway of glucose breakdown. This is there also in our textbook, so don't forget. This entire pathway I have taken from NCERT textbook only. Now next, moving ahead, what is this? This is human respiratory system, right? The diagram is of human respiratory system. Now, what comprises of human respiratory system? What is there in the human respiratory system? We will label it, right? The human respiratory system comprises of nasal passage, that is nasal cavity, nose, nostrils, the two holes that you are able to see, those are the nostrils. Then comes the larynx, which is a voice box, trachea, which is known as windpipe, lungs. Lungs are protected outside by a rib cage, bronchus, bronchioles, alveoli, and the diaphragm. This entire is human respiratory system, right? Let me, okay. Fine. So this is human respiratory system. So human respiratory system comprises of, okay, so human respiratory system, again we'll see, it has nasal passage, nose, nostrils, larynx, that is voice box, trachea, that is windpipe, bronchus, bronchiole, alveoli, air sac, lungs, and rib cage. And the last one is diaphragm, right? Nasal cavity is the first. Nostrils, the two outer holes, those are the first one. Through nostrils, the air goes inside the nasal cavity. Then it passes from the pharynx, larynx. Larynx is a voice box through which we are able to speak. Then the air moves through the trachea. Trachea are C-shaped cartilaginous rings, right? They are the cartilaginous rings which are made up of C-shape. Then this trachea further divides into bronchus. Bronchus enters into the lungs. Lungs are thin membrane balloon shaped structure, right? That is present in our chest cavity, which is protected by a rib cage, right? Bronchiole further goes on dividing, and it gives the structure, microscopic structure, and at the tip of those microscopic structure, alveoli are present. What are the alveoli? Alveoli are the site of exchange of gases that takes place in a body, inside our lungs. Now this, I guess it will be more clear to you comparing to the previous one diagram. One by one we'll label it, and through this we'll come to know the passage of air, from where does this air enters, and the same the vice versa, air comes out, right? Air enters through nasal cavity. It reaches to pharynx, from pharynx to larynx, from larynx to trachea. Trachea divides into bronchi, from bronchi to bronchioles, and finally to alveoli. Is it clear? Right? Entire these structures, that is bronchi, bronchiole, and alveoli are present inside the lungs, right? Lungs are protected by rib cage, right? Clear? Okay, moving ahead. Alveoli, you can see here in this figure, you can see they are hollow inside, right? what is a structure? It's a bunch of grapes, right? These are like the balloons, bunch of grapes, you can say, which are rich in blood capillaries. You can see the red and blue color blood vessels that cover entire alveoli, which that's why alveoli are rich in blood capillaries, right? Now what happens inside this? Students, just see here in this diagram, just it's taken this hollow structure, it has been maximized. You can see here the entire cavity is hollow, right? Now what happens? As the air is entered through our nasal cavity, pharynx, bronchia, bronchiole, it will reach to the alveoli, which is hollow. Air that comes inside the alveoli is rich in oxygen, right? So what happens? Here you can see the carbon dioxide is coming out. Carbon dioxide is coming out from the blood, goes inside the alveoli, and from alveoli oxygen is moving inside the blood capillaries, and this is how exchange of gases takes place. Clear? One more diagram is there of the alveoli. Here I'll just highlight the things so it will be clear for you. Gases exchange between alveoli and the capillaries, right? The air that comes is rich in oxygen. The air now that which is going, it is rich in carbon dioxide. Oxygen diffuses into the red blood cells, carbon dioxide diffuses into the alveoli. Gases can dissolve and diffuse between lungs and the circulatory system. Am I clear? This is what the exchange of gases takes place. You have learned the mechanism of gases takes place, as well as the role of all the respiratory systems, right? A passage of air. Moving ahead, diaphragm. Students, there was one diagram of this diaphragm, right? We have not discussed it. Now what is the role of this diaphragm? Diaphragm helps us in inhalation and exhalation. When the diaphragm pulls down, that helps lungs to expand. As the lungs expands, the area increases, right? What increases? Surface area increases. If more surface area is there, that means we are able to inhale more air. Clear? Alright, so what's the role of diaphragm? If the diaphragm is pulled down, it helps lungs to expand. That will help us to breathe in. That helps us in inhalation. On the other hand, when the diaphragm returns upward, forcing lungs to expel out the carbon dioxide, and that process is known as exhalation. When the diaphragm is pulled up, our area inside the lung is decreased, that is reduced. As the area inside the lungs is reduced, volume of air will also be reduced, and what we are doing? We are exhaling. Clear? So hopefully the structure and the function of diaphragm is clear to you. What is the structure of diaphragm? Diaphragm is made up of, it's a skeletal muscle, right? It's a disc, right? It is a skeletal muscle. In grade 9 we have learned involuntary and voluntary skeletal system. Muscles, right? It's a skeletal muscle, so it pulls down, it pulls up. That helps our lungs to expand and contract. Again, one more diagram is there that will again help you to understand what is inhaling and what is exhaling. When the diaphragm is contracting, we are inhaling. When the diaphragm relaxes, we are exhaling. When the diaphragm is contracting, the area increases. When the diaphragm is relaxing, area reduces. Is that clear? Okay, moving ahead. Now, why I have kept this? It's the last part. Till now we have learned about the respiratory system, right? What are the parts of respiratory system? Again, at the last, we will discuss about it. Nasal cavity and what is the passage of air. Air enters through nasal cavity, pharynx, larynx, then comes the trachea, then comes the bronchi, bronchioles, alveoli. Right? Clear? Bronchi, bronchioles, alveoli are present in the lungs. Right? Okay. What is the role of diaphragm? Diaphragm helps us in expanding lungs and in expansion of lungs and in contraction of lungs, that will help us to breathe, right? Okay, dear friends, one more point I wanted to discuss with you here about the nasal cavity. If you look inside your nasal cavity, you will find that our nose, that is inside of a nasal cavity, hair and mucus is present. What is the role of hair and mucus? Hair and mucus keeps our nasal cavity warm, clean, and it purifies the air that is entering inside our respiratory system. Hair, it helps to clean, purify the air that is coming inside our respiratory system, right? By trapping the dust particles into it. What is the role of mucus? Mucus helps in lowering down or maintaining the temperature of atmospheric air that is entering inside a respiratory system, right? Because atmospheric air temperature is different comparing to our body temperature. Clear? Okay. So here further few slides are there which I will be showing. These are the notes. The characteristics of lungs. Lungs, what is the structure and function of lungs? Alveoli, diaphragm, function of cavity, everything I have written, right? Here, one point that I wanted to discuss it with you, this is about epiglottis, right? As I have discussed that pharynx is a common passage. Pharynx is a common passage of food and air. So to prevent the food to enter in the trachea, we have epiglottis. That is elastic cartilage, which serves as a switch between the larynx and the esophagus by allowing the passage of air into airway to the lungs. This prevents the entry of food into a windpipe, that is in trachea, right? Clear? Okay. Further, you can read the notes. I'll be sharing it with you. The entire video will be with you. Thank you. Here we are ending our respiratory system. Thank you. Hello students. Now, in this session, we are going to learn about respiration in plants. Plants respire through 3 ways. Those are roots, stem, and leaves. Alright? So plant respire through roots, stem, and leaves. Here, through roots, plant is taking oxygen that is present in soil, right? The oxygen that is present in soil is being absorbed by the root hairs, all right, and carbon dioxide, you can see it is released outside the from the plant roots to the soil, right? Now next is stem. Through stem has the pores in the bark of the stem, right? And those pores are known as lenticels. This in grade 9 I have already explained you about the lenticels. Here you can see these are the scars. The tiny pores are the lenticels. How do flowering plants exchange these gases? through stems, right? Through stems, the pores that you see, tiny opening in the stems, are the site for gaseous exchange. Third one is through leaf. Plant as stomata. You are already aware about the stomata, right? This is the slide of the stomata. This is how stomata observed under the microscope. What are the stomata? Stomata have two guard cells, right? This spore is known as stomata. Through the stomata, exchange of gases takes place, as well as, you remember, right, in grade 9 we have learned that apart from gaseous exchange, what else takes place? Transpiration. Yes, transpiration is loss of water in the form of gas. Clear? That is in vapor form. So how many forms are there? How many are there? In which way plants are respiring? Plants are respiring through three ways, right? Through roots. My spelling is incorrect. Roots, stem and leaves, right? Through the simple process of diffusion. Diffusion is movement of molecule from higher to lower concentration, right? Like the animals, plant also use oxygen of the air for respiration and releases carbon dioxide. Alright, we have learned already about the respiration in the roots. It is through the soil interspaces, the air present in the soil interspaces. Through the stem we have discussed, right? Herbaceous plant as a stomata. The name of that is lenticel, right? And third one was through the leaves. Leaves have the tiny spore known as stomatas. Clear? These points you have to remember, that net gaseous exchange in the leaves during day. During day, oxygen diffuses out and carbon dioxide diffuses in. It is moving out and this is coming in. While during the night time, oxygen diffuses in and carbon dioxide is diffused out. Clear? Okay, thank you. Here we are ending about the respiration in plants.